Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. And speaking of entertainment, for all you Audie fans, yes, he is here in my lap. He's doing well. The weather is getting warmer, so he is very pleased with himself. And obviously, he's decided to photobomb the video. It's been about a week since he's done this, but when the weather gets good and he gets happy, he wants to share his joy with everyone. So, now that we've all had a chance to see him, I'm going to take a quick break for the intro, and we will be right back. So, what have Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet been up to? Well, let's start with the big news today. Tom Bower's book has been released. I have not been able to get a copy of it yet. Apparently it's being released in the UK before there will be a US release. So I'm going to see if I can buy a copy in the UK and have them stick a stamp on it and send it over. I am looking forward to reading it. But Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet have, even before the book has come out, begun snapping back at Tom Bower. And they have claimed that he is obsessed, that these are conspiracy theories, that he's going down a rabbit hole. In other words, that Tom Bower is not okay upstairs. Interesting comment for those two to be making about anyone. But regardless, the fact is they have to attack Bower personally because they cannot attack his work. So usually when that happens, it's called an ad hominem attack. When you can't attack the argument, you attack the person making it. And it's generally considered to be a low shot, and two, the court of last resort for people who cannot argue with the facts being presented. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one sifts out, but I am looking forward to the book. They have also been clapping back about the Australian petition that is requesting that the Australian government not provide any financial support for Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet when they make their trip to Australia, apparently 2-3 weeks from now. And the Sussex spokespeople are saying, oh no, this isn't going to be paid for by the Australian government. They're paying for this themselves. Yeah, right. These people don't pay for anything themselves. But even if the Sussex camp claim is true, that the Australian government is not personally writing checks to them, still, one of these faux royal tours, no matter how they pay for the actual airfare and the security they use on the ground, is going to cost the Australian citizenry money. No two ways around it. And it may not be direct, but it will be indirect through increased police presence wherever it is they are, by even the little things like being forced to shut down roads here and there. So that, I don't know, that just, what comes of this, frankly, is the Australian people are expressing their dismay that Nutmeg and Harry are showing up on their doorsteps. I think that it's basically a rather public show of disapprobation. And why would we be surprised by this? The Australians are not known for keeping their opinions to themselves, bless their hearts. And yes, they are expressing disapprobation. I would think that if Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet thought they were going to get a repeat of the fabulous reception they got back in 2018. Oops. Yeah, you miscalculated, folks. So I found that very interesting, but I also, this is just so typically Sussex camp. In the article in which the clapback was recorded, and it is in the video notes as always, one of the Sussex camp spokespeople had said, with like 35,000 signatures, well, that represents like, 2.2% of the Australian population, meaning that the remaining 99.8% of the population wants them there. No, that's not what it means. It means that 99.8% of the population hasn't signed the petition yet. And by the way, I didn't even bother to check out their numbers because it's a fallacious argument going in. Just because someone hasn't signed a petition doesn't mean they approve of the trip. But it does give you an idea of exactly how the Sussex camp goes about spin doctoring the numbers. And I did find that interesting. Another article, and this has come out in the last couple of days, again, in the video notes, was talking about the number of real staff that lost jobs as a result of having at one time worked for Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet. And this article explains that it's a great many more than the couple of dozen, which still is a big number, of high-profile staff we have seen depart recently, that most of these people working in much lower level positions and often in domestic positions, as in household servants. I don't like that term, but it's the only one I can think of that actually clarifies what a domestic position is, that those numbers are much, much higher. And, same article, cites that one of the conditions for working for Nutmeg and Harry is the willingness to work more than 50 hours a week, which is really rich coming from people who claimed on their tax forms that they only spent an hour a week working for their charitable endeavors. So yeah, you start to see already why people are leaving, why they would be fired, why they would quit, why they would be forced out. All right, enough about that. I thought we would save the biggest headline for last so we can actually delve into this a bit and take a look at it. And that is that Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet are allegedly executive producing a scripted show that apparently flows along the lines of the reality TV shows about Polo, because their last Polo show for Netflix did so well. I found this exceptionally interesting because there are so many reasons that Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet, if they actually had two brain cells to rub together, we know Harry doesn't, but I had hoped Nutmeg might have at least had two, possibly even three, but I guess not, because the association of Polo with the royal family in the past, I don't know, what are we going back to? 40 years maybe, has been decidedly negative. So let's take a look at this. And to do this, we have to go back to the 1980s. It is alleged, and has been alleged for a good 40 years, that polo matches are where Charles and Camilla engaged in their extramarital activities, going as far back as the 1980s. And everyone cites polo matches. That's where they got together, so they could see each other with some degree of a public openness, but still sneak off together and do whatever it is they were doing in a bit of privacy. And Polo became very much associated with that affair. But wait, that is not the only relationship that had heavy polo associations. It has been alleged, and I think no one but Andrew and Fergie could actually say this for sure, that it was at polo matches that Andrew and Fergie got together. This is when they started their romantic relationship, because they had apparently known each other since they were small children, but nothing sparked. Apparently the sparks did take place on the polo field at polo matches. Again, another association that I have to say would not be positive. Next up, we have the sock puppet being photographed on a polo pony that had been seriously injured. This is very hard for me. I love animals, as you know, and the idea of anyone causing harm to an animal is just, oh, that kind of gets me where I live. But yeah, not just that, but that one of the horses that he was using had passed away, apparently because of overstressing the animal. Terrible, terrible stuff. The rumors that Harry has been abusive to his polo ponies. And by the way, I looked it up. Some of them are actually horses and not really ponies. So I don't know what the correct terminology is. But it has been long rumored that Harry was not kind to his animals. That was the third one. And let's bring in number 4. It was a polo match that would allegedly benefit the Sentebale charity that drove the breakdown of the Sentebale Executive Board of Directors, prompted the clash, publicly at least, between Harry and Dr. Sophie Chanduka. I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to get that wrong. My apologies to Dr. Sophie. We're just going to go back to Dr. Sophie. I really don't know how her name is pronounced. And that was over a polo match that had initially started out to be a charitable event to benefit Sentebale, but because Harry was bringing along a Netflix crew to videotape that, they lost that venue because it was no longer benefiting charity. Now it was a commercial venture, basically. So that yet is another negative association. And of course, to cap things off, we have the final negative association, which is the dreadful performance of Harry's polo series for Netflix. And this was, these two have nothing but bad associations with polo, either through their extended families or through their own participation in these events. Nutmeg seems to have always enjoyed these polo matches because it gave her a whole bunch of photo ops. She could be dead center in polo trophies. And it's weird because she had nothing to do with polo. This is not her thing, but she could stand there holding trophies as if she was the one who won the event. So, despite the fact that I think anybody looking at this from the outside is going to say, why would they involve themselves with yet another Polo venture, knowing how poorly this has resonated with the public in the past? Well, Nutmeg gets a lot of photo ops from it. And I do think that she likes the association with this very upper crust sport because, again, I did a little research on this. The price tag at the entry level for participation in this event is $5,000, and that's minimal. That's not even for serious participation. That's what opens the door for you. So we are talking about a sport that is restricted to the most wealthy circles. Again, sport of kings. Harry's family has been associated with this sport for a long time. Harry has as well, although I don't see that anyone has ever said he was especially talented at it. Charles played for a long time, and again, I have no idea if Charles was especially talented at it. We do know, however, that Harry's auntie, the Princess Royal, Anne, who I adore, as you know, that is a woman with steel in her spine. Anne was an acknowledged equestrian athlete. Her daughter, Zara, was also an acknowledged equestrian athlete. Harry, well, if he was, I've never heard about it. And again, Charles, if he was, I've never heard about it. So it seems to be a hobby for Charles and Harry, but Anne and Zara have taken their horsemanship, or in their case, horsewomanship, very seriously. So I look at this and think, wow, we are talking about a sport at which Harry is basically just a dilettante entertaining himself. Seems to be the only thing he knows how to do, but we have no evidence that he can do it well. And that would seem to be the connection that Nutmeg and the sock puppet are exploiting to pry their way into this polo show, which I don't think they've had anything to do with. I would say it shows pretty poor judgment, because these lifestyles of the rich and famous shows had their heyday back in the 80s. Lifestyles of the rich and famous ran from, I guess, the mid-80s through the mid-90s, but then people lost interest. It was the sort of thing that appealed to the people around in the go-go 80s, which was a decade of excess. Cocaine-fueled excess. We have to be fair about that. So is that going to resonate with people today who are looking at inflation rates that are getting scary, at job losses and high unemployment rates, again, getting scary, at uncertain economic climates? Are these the people who are going to be anxious to watch a bunch of rich, entitled brats playing polo? Because that seems to be what the show is about. Again, scripted, so it's not reality, but it certainly does seem to be capitalizing on that whole lifestyles of the rich and famous genre. Only this one, actors will be pretending to be the rich and famous whose lifestyles are being viewed on this show. I would say I don't hold out much hope for the success of this, but that's my opinion. So that is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for being with us. I hope to see you again next time. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. And obviously, because we have mentioned Princess Anne, we're going with the Anne slideshow. Why? Because she's my favorite. All right. Hope to see you again next time. Meanwhile, have a terrific day.